in Tim real quick and Arun, and I see that Davy is joining as well. So we'll start off with Tim, and let me just switch over my graphics over here.
How's it
Tim,
going, fellas?
how are you doing
Good
tonight?
to see you.
Yo,
It's Tim. I think how are the Orioles doing tonight? I thought
They're beating the Blue Jays 6-4 in the eighth inning, so we'll see. Blue
nice.
Jays are pretty good, so
And Tampa Bay was losing to the Yankees, right, Brian?
yeah, it's still
Yeah.
2-0 in the eighth inning. Yeah,
Cool.
if you,
All
if you
right.
want to watch that game instead of the crappy Nationals game, it's on TBS.
Oh. That's actually that is a pretty good.
You ain't got to throw crappy in there, Brian. We already know it's bad.
I didn't.
he had to get that shot in there.
Yeah.
You had to just throw the dirt on. Just have some salt in the wound behind that.
Just
he
before
didn't realize that CP3 hadn't left yet.
I hear on see all the time.
But it might be a good thing to have on my third screen, so I will take that up maybe a little bit later. Arun, I also see that you're joining us. How are you doing tonight, Arun?
Not bad. I was trying to change my background, but I couldn't get it done in time.
It's okay. I mean, the dog is a staple at this point. I come to expect it. So it's nice to have you on. And then Davy from Davy is Eating a Sandwich Show, who was just rated into our show. So it's very meta. He rated into the Zoom call. I think that he's on right now. If he is, he can turn on his camera and mic. If not, he might be taking a restroom break and he'll join us in just a second. But Davey, whenever you get back, feel free to turn on your camera. And so we've got 3 games to break down. Let me see if I can get this to work correctly on my screen. There's always a lot of different things that goes. Yep. Basically, Twitch reset every one of my settings before the stream, which is always really helpful. So I really appreciate that. But I think that should work now. So, all right. So we'll do that. We'll exit out of here. And then I will resize this there. All right. Awesome. All right. So let me get the NBA finals. Get this series up here. So when we last left off the series, it was 1-1. It was very exciting. We had a good show about it last week. And I kind of thought that it might be 2-2, in the next one as well. It kind of, I don't know, it was an interesting series. I don't know if we should, I think we should just break down each game. So the series was tied 1-1 when we last left off. The Celtics won the next game 116-100. They started off very strong. It was a pretty even second quarter. Then in the third quarter, the Golden State Warriors as they've been doing this whole series, took off, outscored them 33-25. But the Boston Celtics really clamped down on defense in the fourth quarter and only allowed Golden State to score 11 points, and the Celtics scored 23. So I'll start off with Brian. What was your thoughts on this game 3?
Oh yeah, you mentioned the great defense in the fourth quarter from the Celtics. That was really the difference in this game. I thought they got a pretty good team effort all around in this game. I thought Marcus Smart played a really good game. I thought for the Celtics, he had 24 points, 7 rebounds as well. He was really good, especially defensively. One of the big stories of this game was how bad Draymond Green was. Draymond Green was this was probably one of the worst performances of his career. Even his own mother went on Twitter and said he was playing really badly in this game, which I thought was kind of funny. But Draymond Green was really not good. Just looking at the stats, he had 2 points. He was 1 of 4 shooting. He fouled out. I believe at one point in this series, I remember they showed this graphic. I can't remember if it was in this game or it was in game 4. Draymond Green had 15 points in the series and 17 fouls. So he was really bad. The crowd in Boston was really on him in this whole game. They've really been on him this whole series, but they were especially in this game. I thought the Warriors were a little annoyed by that. They definitely seemed a little pissed off by the crowd in Boston in this game. Maybe that motivated them in the next game. But yeah, Draymond was bad, but a great defensive effort from the Celtics in the fourth quarter to only hold them to 11 points. And they get the win in game 3.
And I want to welcome in Davy, is now officially on the show after rating in. I appreciate you joining us. Davy, how are you doing tonight?
No, doing well. Just hanging out, just doing some gaming, just some classic gaming. So it was good times. Yeah. How are you all? It's nice to see you all again.
It's good. We're doing well. I appreciate you for joining in on the show. And one of the benefits of us moving one night forward is that you're able to join us. And Joy Avner is joining our chat for the first time. I appreciate you, my friend. You're a win in Game 3, so yeah, it's a really exciting win for Game 3 for sure. I'm excited that Jory that you're here. Feel free to give your thoughts on this as well. And I see I have an emoji wall, so something just happened to my chat, but I just missed it. But Davey, I'm excited that you're here. What were some of your thoughts on Game 3?
Yeah, that was a really ugly fourth quarter, wasn't it? Like, it was just nuts. Like, it's so interesting how you can have these swings within the game, and I mean, just echoing what everybody else with the defense. Like, it was just insane. Like, and it kind of worked out both ways, but in this game, it definitely worked in the home team's favor. It's just surprising that could happen because it was like a 5-point game or less, like the other three quarters. So you kind of blink and it just happens. But 11 points, I mean, that's rough. Like, Draymond was being rough. I'm sure we'll get to the other games later, but I'll have comments on those too. But yeah, great win for the Celtics at that point. And you thought maybe they were going to take control of the series, but then, well, I'll let you take it from there. I mean,
yeah. Well, I'll get everybody's thoughts on Game 3. I'll go to Tim next and get his take.
Yeah, I think obviously the fourth quarter doomed the Warriors in this one, but just in general, they play really small, especially when Draymond is bad and he had a terrible game, like Brian said. The Celtics vastly out rebounded the Warriors in this game. I think players like Robert Williams have a huge advantage inside. There were a lot of plays in Game 3 where he just bullied Draymond. There were a lot of jokes and memes online that Draymond was basically like on his ass the whole game because he was just falling down and getting physically dominated by a younger guy. Williams is definitely an X factor too because he's been hurt most of the playoffs and is still not 100%. And I think if he was 100% healthy, the Celtics might be leading this series right now. So Boston got a little bit unlucky with him, but he really shined in this game and led them in rebounds. And the Celtics just were really balanced. And I think the Warriors, they always play great in the third quarter, but they had a bad trend really until last game of getting outplayed in the fourth quarter. So it was kind of bad that the Celtics fans were chanting "F you, Draymond," but they're not very classy up there. So, but it was a good game till the end.
Yep, sounds good. And Arun, your final takeaways from Game 3.
Yeah, the Celtics winning in this spot is not that surprising given that they haven't lost consecutive games throughout the playoffs. But the Warriors didn't really get off to a good start. They were already down by double figures after the first quarter. And yeah, they had a great third quarter, but I think as everyone alluded to, that fourth quarter, it looked like they ran out of gas because they had to cover up so much ground. And giving up 116 points, that's probably way too much, especially given how good the Celtics defense has been. Draymond, Clay were not really good in this game. Neither was Looney. But overall, just the win and the stat that came from this game, the winner of Game 3 went on to win 82% of the time, but we'll see how that plays out going forward.
Right. You got to imagine that there's the other side of that statistical category. So it eventually has to even itself out a little bit. But I didn't expect it to go south this quickly, but I'm not surprised. I do think, going forward, I'd be surprised if Boston doesn't win the next game, but we'll see, how it shakes out. It does seem like officiating might be playing a role at times, what is called and what's not with the contact, which happens a lot in the NBA, but it's that they want this to go 7, so they're going to try everything they can to do that in my mind. But Davey, what are your thoughts?
Are we going back to game 2?
Well, no. Oh, sorry. I clicked the wrong game. I'm gonna go
Okay.
back to it was game 4.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So this was the one that got away from Boston, and it got away because Steph was just on fire. 43 points. I mean, it was an amazing performance, and between that game and we're gonna get, I guess we will get to game 5 too, but it was kind of like a very interesting moment for me watching the series because the whole time I really thought that the Celtics had control of the series until that game, and we were like maybe 3/4 of the way through the game before I really felt like the Warriors were starting to have something here. And but Steph was just not going to let that game. Was just not going to let them lose that game. And that special quality that you have, the Type A quality, the I'm not going to let the team lose the game quality. He didn't have that all the time. And when he does have it, when he's on like that, ain't nobody stopping him. He was hitting shots from like 35 feet, which he does a lot. But this is a huge game to be doing that. They're down 2-1 in the series, and they're about to get. This series would have been over if they didn't win. And it's a remarkable win for Golden State. That was definitely a turning point for me. I don't know what did you all think, fellas?
Yeah. So I'll start. I'll go around the circle. I'll go to Brian next. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Steph was amazing in this game. The 43 points is probably the best finals game he's ever had. I know it's been a storyline for a really long time that Steph's never won a finals MVP. And I guess we'll see if he wins it this year. But this performance was obviously a huge step forward for that. He was great. There's really not much more you can say about it. I mean, Dwayne Wade made a really good point on Twitter. He said that we need to stop talking about what Steph doesn't do, and we need to be talking about what he does, because what he does, like nobody's ever done in league history before. He's amazing. He's one of the best players we've ever seen. But I would like to point out two other things from this game. Steve Kerr made the lineup change going into this game. He took Kevon Looney out of the starting lineup, and he put former Wizard Otto Porter in the starting lineup. Now, Porter didn't necessarily have a great offensive game, but I think Looney, settled better into a bench role. He had 11 rebounds coming off the bench for the Warriors in this game. I feel like a lot of the pressure was off for him coming off the bench, and I think that was a good lineup decision for Steve Kerr going into this game. And Andrew Wiggins, we're going to talk about game 5 next and how great he was in that game too. But Andrew Wiggins was really great in this game too. He had 17 points and 16 rebounds, which was actually a career high, the most he's ever had in any game at any point in his NBA career. So Wiggins deserves a lot of credit for this victory for Golden State too. Draymond, again, not great offensively, but he had some big rebounds. He had some big assists down the stretch for the Warriors. It was a nice, maybe not scoring wise, a nice bounce back game for him. And yeah, as much credit as you can give to Steph, you have to give credit to those guys too. They all stepped up in their own way.
Tim, what do you have to add?
I would just say the media really focused after this game how the Warriors didn't have enough secondary scoring. And I think it's true. I mean, the team did a lot around Steph to dominate the second half and make up a deficit from halftime and come back and win. But it is true. I mean, players like Klay Thompson just haven't scored a ton in this finals, haven't shot very well. Obviously Steph kind of pulled this out individually, but I think if the Warriors hadn't come back and won this game, they would have had a lot of kind of inside team turmoil because I think Draymond getting benched, and then if they had lost, that would have really messed with the team psychologically. And I do think Boston probably would have just 1-5. I don't think you could come back from that. So Kerr made a big, it was a risky move. I think he basically just said, I'm going to do this. If we win, we'll probably win the series and vice versa. And it worked out because they have the best shooter in NBA history on their side. And somehow he made no threes last night, but the rest of the team scored. So
that's crazy. We'll get to that because that's a crazy stat too. Davey, you had a comment about the lineup change?
Yeah, Tim, I think making a great point about the move to bench Draymond, especially in the fourth quarter. Honestly, I think that was the difference in the game. he's been a net negative for almost the entire series. Like, he's just not been as athletic as he used to be, and he makes stupid decisions. He gets technical all the time. It's like, I mean, it was a desperation move, but it was the right call, I thought. Like, you ride or die that. Like, if you just try to leave him in the game because, well, maybe he's got something left, I honestly don't think the Warriors come back to win. So, Tim, I think it's a great point.
For sure. And Arun, any final thoughts on this game before we get into last night's game?
Yeah, I think Draymond, he does his thing defensively at 4 steals, but I think arguably this game offensively was worse than even game 3. He had 2 points, but he took even more shots. He had 8 assists, but I think just passing to Steph Curry will get you a lot of assists like that. And Jordan Poole was pretty huge in this game, along with Gary Payton. Playing center, he hasn't gotten that explosiveness, dunking the ball. Maybe he's scared to jump up that high after Dylan Brooks had that dirty play against him, but he's been pretty big. He's actually been bigger than Otto Porter, speaking of former Wizards. But as Brian mentioned, Wiggins pulling down 16 boards and 17 points. He was the second best player. I just want to talk a little bit about the Celtics. Like 23 shots from Jason Tatum, 8 of 23, only 23 points. His field goal percentage was actually less than Steph Curry's points per game after this game. So he kind of needs to pick it up. He might be playing injured. Whenever the Celtics haven't scored 100 points, they haven't won. So if they can get it together offensively, they can beat the Warriors. But I think the Warriors, even if they were down 3-1, they've come back before. You're gonna have to knock them completely off. And the officials weren't even giving them that many calls in this game. They only shot 15 free throws, and 6 of those at least were just when they were fouling when the game was already over. So it was a very good win for the Warriors in a very high pressured situation.
For sure. I'll let you have the first crack since I've given you the last crack on the last couple on this game yesterday. I know that you always have a look into some of the stats. I thought it was a really close game for the most part. I mean, I know Golden State went up early. It looked really bad for Boston, but Boston's kind of stayed in it for a long time. And they never led really, but like they were able to get close. But at the end, the Warriors were able to kind of hold them at bay. But Arun, what are some of your thoughts on yesterday's game?
Yeah, the Warriors really took a commanding lead in the first half, but the Celtics did actually take a lead in the midway through the third quarter. I believe it was 5 or 6 points, but the Warriors made a nice set of plays. Jordan Poole made an incredible 3-point shot to close out the quarter, his second buzzer-beating half-court 3 in the third quarter, the other one in game 2, and this one was probably
wasn't the Celtics at some point have like 7 or 8 threes in a row?
Yeah, they had 8 threes in a row in the third quarter, and that really looked like the Celtics were going to take maybe like the Warriors, especially Steph Curry. He shot 9 threes. He didn't make a single one, and it's the first time in his playoff career where he hasn't made a single 3-point shot. I think they tried to get him a 3-point shot like just in the closing couple of minutes of the game, but then the game was already out of hand. So, and
that's crazy though. Since 2018, he has,
and that was in the regular season, and then the playoffs
and playoffs combined. And he had never, I heard, in the playoffs in his career ever had a game without a 3-pointer in the playoffs, which is a crazy stat that I just can't believe. But I agree. I thought Boston was going to storm back. It was kind of a crazy set of circumstances, but Golden State was able to hold on. I'm going to let Tim get the next thoughts on this one.
It's just crazy that Golden State can win a game where Gary Payton Jr. and Wiggins outscored Steph Curry and Thompson together. You would normally say that's terrible and they would get blown out, but it just shows that the Warriors are really deep and, they can have guys go off and score double digits who are like normally their 7th or 8th options. And they can win games where their stars struggle and when their stars score 50 plus. So they're just really diverse team. They have a lot of players that can come in off the bench and give you some quick offense. And I think one thing that made I heard a lot about, which I think was a big turning point, was just that 3 at the end of the third quarter that Poole made. Just the crowd got really into it, and then the Warriors turned it on in the fourth quarter. So
he has 2 of those, I think, in this series.
Yeah, he
had
does.
a really deep 3 in one of the early games as well. So it seems to be a recipe for their success is to have that. So
give it to him every time.
Exactly. So all right, I'll give Davey the next thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah, it was a pretty ugly game, wasn't it? I think, I mean, yeah, you can see the field goal percentages that wound up being good in the end, but I think it's because of the third quarter. It took a while because I think there was one point where Boston was like 0 for 10 from 3 or something like that. It was pretty ridiculous, but I can't mirror all the points. Wiggins has really been so comfortable on the Warriors, and I'm really happy for him because I just think it's just one of those. It's like the guy in a band who just needed to find his voice, and he found his voice, and he's got a good role here. When he's the leader of a team like he was in Minnesota, it was tougher, but to be here as part of a cog in a wheel on a giant machine, he's been very comfortable, and I think he's been a real rock for these guys. Like it's really cool to see that. I was just as surprised because as we saw, the Celtics really did make a run. I thought this would be a close game throughout. It was honestly very surprised that it just fell apart. But that fourth quarter seems to be undoing like each team at various points of the series. So now I have no idea. I thought, okay, for like 3 games I thought Boston totally had control of the series. And then now after these 2, I'm like I have no feel anymore. Like I don't have any idea. I think Boston should win game 6. They've generally done very well in they have been better on the road, I will say, but the one thing about and I'm sorry I'm looking ahead like this, but I just think that the Warriors, once they get to a game that they don't need, and this is definitely it, game 6, they will not put everything into this. And I do think I very much agree with you, Robbie. I think the Celtics are going to take game 6 as well. But as far as game 5, I don't really have a lot to say. I'm just surprised that it just got away so fast. I was expecting a closer fourth quarter.
I was too. Brian, what are some of your thoughts on this one and starting to look ahead?
No, I'll just add on Wiggins. This was an incredible game for him. And it looked like Steph Curry was really a lock for Finals MVP after that game 4. Actually, after game 4, I remember seeing that he actually had better odds to win Finals MVP than the Warriors actually did to win the championship outright. And I kind of was wondering after this game 5, maybe Andrew Wiggins was going to steal the MVP award for Steph Curry because he had a great performance in game 4 as well. And he had it on top of this. And Steph, we are, like you guys already said, 0 for 9 from 3. It's insane to have one of the best performances of your career in game 4 and to follow it up with that. But Wiggins really stepped up. He's a free agent after this year. We'll see if he stays with the Warriors, if he goes and secures the bag with another team. But he was really great. And yeah, the shot by Poole, I think that really changed all the momentum going into the fourth quarter. The Celtics were, you guys already said it, they were on fire in that third quarter. They were just draining 3 after 3 after 3. And it looked like they were going to go into the fourth quarter with the lead. But that shot by Poole really changed all the momentum. It got the crowd in San Francisco back into it. And the Warriors were pretty much able to handle their business from there. So I guess we'll see what happens in game 6, but Wiggins really stepped up at a time when they needed him, and so did Poole, and so did Gary Payton, and now they're on the verge of yet another championship in Golden State.
Yeah, it's pretty astounding. I don't know. I didn't think it would slide that quickly, but I even talked to Davey before that game, and I really thought Golden State was going to win it, but I still kind of thought the Celtics would win game 6 and 7, but now after watching game 5, I'm not sure they're going to win game 7. I think game 7's now become a coin flip, but for me, game 6 is going to be interesting. But I kind of thought that after such an amazing game, it didn't surprise me, I guess, that he had a letdown. I guess how bad that game was maybe a surprise, but I didn't think he was going to put up 40 again. I just didn't think he was going to miss all of his 3-pointers, right? So I think that he'll have a comeback game in this next one, but it won't be the 40-point one. And then the question is what happens in game 7? Is he going to have that explosion again, or is he going to wilt? And that's going to decide, at least for me, who's going to win game 7.
Robbie,
but yeah.
So how much of a factor do you think there've been a lot of talk about the nagging injuries he had throughout the series. Do you think that might have played a factor in Game 5?
Maybe. I don't know. It just he had injuries we thought before Game 4, and then he put that crazy performance out there, right? So it's like, I mean, that makes sense, right? But I think it's just fatigue. Like he just outshot himself in the previous game. He just had nothing left in the tank for the next one. And I mean, even at home. And I think maybe he knew that the rest of the team would pick him up because he kind of picked them up in the previous one. And so they kind of owed him one in some ways, right? And so, and they did. And, I think they will win a championship if different people step up every night. I think it's pretty crazy that Iguodala gets so little playing time in this, where in previous series, he's a pretty good defensive stopper for the most part and has, been impressive at times in the league. And like, they don't even use him on this team. So it'll be interesting to see how the benches play out in these last two games as fatigue settles in on a long postseason. So,
Robbie, I got to piggyback on something you said. I've been listening in the back in the cut.
There you go.
About Steph Curry. I agree with what you said about, maybe he, shot himself out in the game before, but you also got to give Boston credit for the defense they played on. They locked him down. They wasn't allowing him to get any space at all. So you got to give him some credit to, help him shut him down and not, get out like he did the game before. Because I was watching, I'm a Steph Curry fan, and I was looking for him to go off again. And I was just watching how tightly they were playing him. And they had an excellent game plan, just that Wiggins, in my opinion, to me, played the best game of the series so far in that game. On both sides, being able to play Tatum and putting the numbers that he did and the rebounds, helping control the tempo when Boston did make that run and get the lead back. Because when I saw they were up so much, I figured it was going to be a blowout. But Boston, composed himself, came on the second half, and Golden State was able to withstand that. And I think Wiggins, played a huge role in that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that assessment. Except for the one part is I thought they played him pretty well in Game 4, and he still went off, right? I don't think they played him particularly badly in that game. I think the Celtics defense has actually been pretty good, and that was what was kind of impressive by Golden State in my mind in the previous game, that he was able to go off even with decent defense. I guess it was better in the last game than it was in the previous one, but I just also thought that some of the shots that were going in before weren't. So, it's a combination of both. But I agree that the Celtics defense is what saved them throughout these playoffs. And when their backs have been against the wall, their defense has shined in all these previous rounds. And they have a lot of experience being in elimination games already this postseason, which might help them in a Game 6 for sure. Tim, I'll get some of your thoughts looking forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great series. I definitely think the NBA wants Game 7. Clearly, I mean, they love a Sunday night primetime Game 7. I do think the Warriors will actually close out in Boston. The reason I think that is just the Warriors have been a great road team really this whole run, and you can probably call it a dynasty at this point. They always win huge road games when it matters. And I think the Boston crowd is great, but I think the fact that the Warriors won the last game there and the Boston crowd was so brutal to them and Draymond might kind of come back to haunt them, because I don't think the Warriors will let their foot off the gas at all. I think they want to close it out in 6. I don't think they want to take a chance. They've lost.
I agree that they don't want to take a chance at all, because I feel like they will gain so much momentum if somehow, even if it's expected to win at home, they will still gain a lot of momentum from that victory. For sure. Davey, what are some of your thoughts going forward?
It's great to see the series in perspective. I was thinking, I just forgot what I was going to say. It was a really, really remarkable point that I forgot about it, but. I'm gonna be a bit of a contrarian here. I actually think Boston will take this game. I think they'll take this game because, as I mentioned, I found the point. I figured out what I was gonna say. So Did you know? Like, did you see the stat on the Warriors winning winning at least one road game in a series, and it's like the 950th, whatever it was, like some crazy number. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have exact numbers here, but they've gone years and years without losing a road playoff game in a series. I'm sorry, I should be more specific. Winning at least one road playoff game in a series, and Game 4 was the latest example of that, and that's an amazing run. That is an amazing run. I'm not sure. It may be a long time before we ever see that again. So that would probably lend to your all's point of them winning. However,
but they already won one, so they don't have to win two.
No. They only need to win they extend the streak just with that
Right,
win.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still impressive.
There.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I do think that this is like backs against the wall. You got the home crowd. I do think the Celtics will win and they'll force a game 7. And if they don't do all that, then I think they're gonna get a little help, if you know what I'm saying. That tends to be a thing in the NBA, but we'll see. So we'll see. I mean, personally, I would love for the Warriors to close it out in Game 6. That would be an incredible story. It's kind of like a mini comeback in a way, because I truly did not think they had control of the series until Game 4. That's so interesting how that just all just came up and turned on its ear. But either way, I think we will get Game 7. The thing for me is I don't know who's going to win. I think that could truly.
Well, I also think that you were probably never going to pick Boston in the same way that Brian never would want to pick Boston. You're a Lakers fan. He's a Knicks fan. Neither like Boston. So
it's a very interesting spot, and particularly when you're putting money on the game. Like it's like, are you happy when they cover the spread? Like I mean. I guess.
It's a tough
very
one.
Difficult place to be.
It's so strange to me that Tatum wears like Kobe's got a purple armband. I talked about it last week. It's so strange to see that on a Celtic player. I don't know how I feel about that. But obviously Kobe is like one of my all-time favorite players, but it's hard to watch like on a Celtic uniform, like I guess not on it, but adjacent to. So it's a interesting thing. I really hope Boston wins this one. I really would love it to go 7. Personally, I just think it's been such a great series so far. It's been close at times. I think it's interesting to see how the third quarters have played out across all of them, but I've ended up really liking this Boston team. They're really scrappy, and I don't often say that. And so I just, and I like Golden State also. I think they've played well, but they've won, championships. I get that Wiggins hasn't or whatever, but I don't know. This Boston team's been like knocking on the door a bunch of different times, and then they finally like come together. And I don't know. If they win it with defense, I'm going to be really impressed. And that's kind of what if their defense could be intense in the next game, I think that they will win that game. If their defense lets them down and they get a shooting match with Golden State Warriors, I think that it's going to be difficult for them for sure. I'm going to go to Brian next. What are your final thoughts going forward on this series?
I actually agree with Tim. I think Golden State's going to close it out in Game 6. I think that stat Davy said about them winning a road game in every series, even though they've already won this series, is still pretty remarkable. It just goes to show you this group really knows how to get it done on the road. And I was actually reading some of the quotes from some of the Golden State players after they won Game 5 last night, and Klay Thompson was like, "Oh yeah, this is the first time I've ever actually been excited to go to Boston." So I think they're kind of relaxed. I think I do think the crowd in Boston, I think that definitely motivated them. Maybe maybe to this point where they want to clinch the title in front of Boston fans, just to get back at them for all the stuff they said about Draymond in Game 3. I'm sure that would be nice revenge for the Warriors. I just think they're going to close it out. I think they're going to get it done in Game 6. I know the NBA probably does want a Game 7, especially that primetime slot on Sunday night is very, very tempting. But I think Golden State gets it done in Game 6.
Yeah, Arun, what are your thoughts on Game 6 and if there'll be a Game 7?
Before the series, I had Golden State winning in 6, so I guess I'll have to stick to it. But I think it's still going to be a toss-up probably in Game 6 and in Game 7 because the Celtics are already 3-0 in elimination games. They were down 3-2 to Milwaukee. They had a Game 7 at Miami when they blew Game 6 and they almost blew Game 7. I just think this Warriors team is better than the Heat team who was playing with an injured Tyler Hero and Milwaukee is playing without Chris Middleton. And I just want to say Steph Curry's he should win finals MVP. Even if Wiggins had a good game 5, Curry's still averaging 31 points per game, and Wiggins is averaging 18 points per game. And I think the standard for Wiggins is just much lower. Everyone was just commenting how game 4, Wiggins had a great game. He only had 17 points. Granted, he had 15 rebounds. And this one, game 5, Curry had a bad game, but it was 16 points. Just overall for the series, Curry should win finals MVP if the Warriors go on to win.
It all depends though, right? I mean, if Wiggins has like 30 and 10 and Steph has 15 and 2,
then Curry will still be averaging more points per game than
I still think if that happens, so he gets 3 triple doubles in a row and is dominant and the reason they win the title.
Wiggins is not getting a triple double. Where the assists for 2 assists is a triple double.
No. I'm saying if he gets a double double.
He'll have to put up like 50 points and Curry will have to put up like 10 points. And even then Curry will still be averaging more points per game. So I don't even think that's going to happen.
I just think, I think that you could, if he put a dominant performance together, there could at least
right now in Vegas, you can place a bet that Andrew will win MVP and you'll get 20 times your money. So
nice.
I think maybe you should place that bet, Robbie.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm picking the Celtics to win the series, so I'm not going to pick that bet. So I'm picking them to win Game 6 and 7.
I forgot about that, Robbie. I forgot you had some skin in this scenario.
Yeah. No, I have not bet in this game. So, but I'm
not the game, just Wiggins for MVP.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to bet on that either. But but I'm just saying that I could see a pathway that it could happen if what happens if they he outscores them in 6, but they lose, and then outscores them in 7 and they win? Is there a scenario where if he beats them?
If Wiggins outscores Curry in both the games, it's not going to happen. That's not even going to happen. I don't think.
But yeah, okay. I'm just saying if in that case they'd want it to go 7.
Well, in games 1 through 4, Curry would still be more games that Curry's outscored Wiggins. It's like
that's true. But is it only points that they care about, or there's nothing about like rebounds?
Well, that's also 3-point percentage. Curry shooting 41% from 3. Wiggins is shooting 25% from 3-point range.
That's fair. All right.
Yeah.
So so everyone has Golden State winning except for me, right? It's just the question of 6 or 7?
Yeah.
I think you guys all. Davey, you think that?
I didn't actually give you a prediction.
What was your?
I don't know. I guess I would probably say Boston in Game 7, if you asked me to make a prediction.
Oh, nice. So you'll join me in the Boston.
I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll join you in that because I have still felt like they're the deeper team, just because there's just a lot of more guys that can contribute. And Tatum's had some bad games too in recent memory, throughout the last couple of weeks. But what happens if he ends up going for 43? That could be a very, very tough day for Golden State. So I'm not ruling that out. So I'm probably just gonna put it out there and hope I'm wrong, I guess. But we'll see. That'll be my prediction. Yeah, I'll go Boston.
Arun, the winning team almost always wins the MVP, right? So if Boston wins,
there's only been one losing Finals MVP before in history. It was Jerry West.
Yeah.
But players have received votes. So LeBron James did get, I think, 5 out of 14 votes in 2015. But Jerry West, when he won, it was before the Game 7 actually occurred. So that one doesn't even count because they had to vote before Game 7 actually happened. So yes, he was on the losing team, but they didn't know the result of the game.
They have to vote in this one before Game 7?
No, just back in 1970.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. I'm just curious if there's a scenario where Boston wins this whole thing, but Steph Curry wins MVP. If there's a scenario where that happens, but I would be surprised. Is that even possible, Arun? You think?
It is possible, but if he played like he did in Game 5, or if he plays one more game like that, then it's probably not going to happen. But if he puts up another 40-point games,
if he gets 2 40-point games and loses both of them, let's say, that would be interesting. Anyway, so some fun things to watch. The three of you guys, Brian, Arun, and Tim, you guys all have Golden State going to Boston and winning, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that confident, but that's my prediction.
Yeah, same.
And Tim, you agree? So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, not confident, but yes.
Yes. All right. Well, none of us are confident in our picks, so we've done a good job with the roundtable. But I'm going to let some of our guests go, and then we're going to switch over to some quick hockey talk as well. So I'm going to let Tim go first. Tim, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, it's just great to have a big crew again. I feel like it's been months, and I haven't seen Davy, I think, since the 2021, 2020 Olympics. So
Oh, that's right.
it's been like a year, I feel like, and just good to talk about a really exciting finals. Hopefully, we can do it again soon.
Yeah, sounds awesome. And one thing I didn't mention real quickly before we get too far is the timing of the game. So the next game, Game 6, is Thursday, the 16th at 9 p.m. All these games are on ABC, and if there is a Game 7, it's on Sunday at a much nicer 8 p.m. For us East Coast people. So, all right, sounds good. Well, Tim, I appreciate you joining us as always.
Have a good night.
And have a good one. And I will see you in September, but feel free to join CP3 and Brian next week if you want to recap these games as well.
Definitely. Have a good one.
All right,
Yes,
sounds
yeah.
good. All right, Arun, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, hopefully it's a good series, whether it goes 6 or 7. It's been the last couple of games have been really good compared to the rest of the NBA playoffs, where it's just blowout after blowout. Hopefully it's a good series, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate your insight. Arun has been on since the very first season of Sports on the Hill podcast, so I appreciate you giving insight to many different NBA finals over the years. So it's been fun to cover it with you, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks.